I served as a soldier in the Wehrmacht during World War II. By April 1945, the once mighty Third Reich was crumbling. The Allied forces were closing in from the west, and the Soviets were advancing rapidly from the east. I was stationed in Berlin, desperately trying to defend our capital as the enemy tightened its noose around the city. The streets of Berlin were a shadow of their former glory. Once a symbol of power and order, the city was now a chaotic landscape of rubble and ruins. Every day, we faced relentless air raids that reduced entire neighborhoods to dust. The once confident and determined spirit of our people had given way to fear and despair. Food was scarce, and the sounds of battle were a constant reminder of the encroaching enemy. April 16th, 1945, the battle begins. On April 16th, the Soviets launched their final assault on Berlin. The ground shook with the thunder of artillery, and the sky was ablaze with the flashes of explosions. Our orders were clear: hold the city at all costs. But as the Soviet tanks rolled in, we knew it was a hopeless fight. Our equipment was outdated, our numbers dwindling, and our morale shattered. I was assigned to a makeshift defense line in the city's outskirts. The trenches were filled with a motley crew of soldiers, young boys barely out of their teens, seasoned veterans, and even old men who had been conscripted in a desperate bid to bolster our ranks. We fought with whatever we could find: rifles, machine guns, even Panzerfausts scavenged from destroyed tanks. One night, we were ordered to defend a strategic bridge over the Spree River. The Soviets were advancing, and our position was critical to slowing their progress. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Bullets whizzed past, and the air was filled with the deafening roar of artillery. We held our ground for hours, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. By dawn, we were forced to retreat, leaving behind the bodies of fallen comrades. April 20th, 1945, Hitler's birthday. April 20th was Hitler's birthday, but there was no celebration. The Führer had retreated into his bunker, surrounded by his closest advisors. Rumors swirled among the troops about his deteriorating mental state and erratic decisions. The disconnect between the leadership and the realities on the ground was glaringly evident. While they spoke of last-ditch efforts and miracle weapons, we faced the brutal truth of our imminent defeat. Our morale was further crushed when we heard of the atrocities committed by our own side: executions of deserters, civilians caught in the crossfire, and summary punishments for those who questioned orders. The ideals we had been told to fight for seemed hollow in the face of such desperation and cruelty. April 28th, 1945, the final stand. As the days passed, the Soviet forces closed in on the heart of Berlin. On April 28th, we received orders to defend the Reichstag, the symbol of German power and pride. It was to be our last stand. The building, already battered from previous battles, was fortified with sandbags and barricades. We knew that once the Reichstag fell, the war would be over. The Soviets attacked with relentless ferocity. The sky darkened with smoke, and the air was thick with dust and the acrid smell of gunpowder. We fought room by room, floor by floor, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. The noise was deafening, a cacophony of gunfire, explosions, and the cries of the wounded. In the midst of the chaos, I found myself in a small room with a handful of other soldiers. We were outnumbered and outgunned. The walls shook with each explosion, and the air was filled with dust and debris. As the Soviets broke through the final defenses, we were ordered to surrender. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but there was no other option. April 30th, 1945, the Führer's end. On April 30th, the news spread like wildfire: Adolf Hitler was dead. He had taken his own life in his bunker. For many of us, it was the final blow. The man we had been taught to revere, the architect of our nation's ambitions and the cause of its downfall, had abandoned us. The war was lost, and our sacrifices seemed in vain. In the days that followed, Berlin fell to the Soviets. The once proud city was a landscape of devastation, its people weary and broken. We were taken as prisoners of war, facing an uncertain future. As we were marched through the ruined streets, I saw the faces of the civilians, a mixture of relief, sorrow, and anger. They had endured unimaginable suffering, and now the nightmare was finally over.